15 years ago, we started Transition Garden. It's a way to use a garden to build community, to build additional strength of local control over what's going on in the outside world. Communities working more closely together, working on food production, which is important, of course, to everyone, and a way to really build that community empowerment.
Seasons that flow, our garden grows, our garden grows.
So here we are in the vineyard. There's about 30 vines in here, and it's mostly reds, and the varieties that grow in this area, which are Marichal Foch and Leon Malo. Good red varieties adapted for short seasons. Out of 30 vines right now, I get about 15 bottles of wine every year. But I expect more than that in the years ahead because some of the vines are still fairly young. So we're going to be doing some pruning in here. But first, one thing to notice with grapes, as with a lot of other types of heat-loving plants, it really helps to find the microsite of microclimate. It's going to capture the most amount of heat. Same thing holds true if you're going to grow tomatoes, peppers, that sort of thing. But with this grapes, what we've got, big rock wall facing straight south, so that's capturing a lot of heat during the day and it radiates it back off at night, so it tends to keep this whole site warm down here. Same thing, we now got another rock wall down here, adding some warmth there as well. So the whole site itself is very good. Now with grapes, what you're trying to do is, of course, getting as many grapes as possible and getting as little amount of top growth or vine growth as possible, because the grapevine would just as soon put all of its growth into growing more vines, leaves and vines, and you really want it to put as much energy as possible into the grapes themselves. So for that reason, you tend to limit how much top growth, how much vine growth there is in any particular vine. So what you can see here, these vines, they've come up through the wires, and we've only let a certain number of vines grow from each of the root stalks. So we're trying to limit the amount of top growth, and by doing that, it's going to put more energy into the size of the grapes, the ripeness of the grapes, the amount of sugar, and so on. You can see that we're starting to get some pretty good thick rootstock here. This is about a 5-year-old grapevine stem, and in its first year I trained it to branch right here so that some of it goes this way, some of it goes that way, and it's trained along this wire. So it's got its roots in, it's going quite far. We don't really fertilize the grapes because if we did, we again would get much more top growth, and we're trying to really keep that growth focused in on the grapes. We add some lime every once in a while. Grapes like a good sweet soil, non-acidic soil. So what we're going to do here is we've got with this vine right here, for example, it's coming out of the ground, and we trained it so that it splits off in 2 different directions, and it's tied up to a wire here. So then what I'm going to do with my pruning shears, these is all the top growth from last year. I'm just going to reach down and clip these off and pull them down out of the wires, which can be quite tangled sometimes, and then they've got the tendrils that are hanging on to the wires and so on. So we'll get all of that out of there, and we're just going to work our way down the different rows, cleaning up the vines so that we're just back down to that initial rootstock and that first branch. And already I can see that some of the buds along here are starting to swell. I cut this one right above. We've got a big bud right on the end of that stem. And that's going to very quickly start to produce new vine growth early in the year. And vines grow very, very quickly. You could probably measure half an inch or an inch a day in some cases when they really start to hit their stride. So that's pretty well what we're going to be doing here with the rest of these rows for the grapes, is just going down and cleaning up the top growth, making sure I've got enough buds that are going to be coming out in this new year. So let's talk about pruning fruit trees. Before we even start pruning, I want to tell you a little bit about just tree protection, that sort of thing. This is a beautiful Honeycrisp. I think some of you know about Honeycrisp. They're absolutely delicious apples for eating. This tree is about 5 years old. Been doing very well. Couple of things. You'll notice I've got chicken wire around it with posts. Okay. This is important if you live outside of the city, wherever that may be, because this time of year, deer will attack fruit trees because they're starving. This is the leanest time of the year for a deer. They just came through winter. The snow's starting to melt, but there's nothing green yet for them to eat. So they are almost in a panic, looking for anything that will give them nutrition. First thing they notice is on a fruit tree, the buds are starting to swell. They're juicy, and it's good food browsing for a deer. So they will literally attack a fruit tree, a young fruit tree like this. They will even climb up and try to break branches down. And young fruit trees, they could literally destroy a tree in one evening. So that's why we've got chicken wire around it. We're going to leave it around it until the tree is big enough, the branches are strong enough, it's tall enough that it gets past what a deer might be able to do to it. So these branches in here are now getting pretty thick, and most of it is getting high enough that it's going to be away from a deer. So probably in the next year or so we'll take the fence down, and then the tree will be on its own. We also have a little bit of root collar protection around the bottom. Sometimes in the winter you'll get mice that like to chew on the bark of fruit trees. So a little plastic collar around the bottom adds a little bit of protection there. Other than that, it does really well. We will be spraying before the buds open up. We'll be spraying with an organic spray. It's called a dormant oil spray. All that it is mineral oil. And mixed into it is what's called lime sulfur, which is an acidic form of sulfur. So it does two things. The mineral oil will actually coat the bark and kill any eggs that have been laid on the bark. It'll literally suffocate any insect eggs. And then the lime sulfur will knock out any fungus spores that are on the bark as well. So that's a very typical spray early in the season like this. So we'll get a sprayer out here and we'll give everything a coating, and that'll really kind of help them when they break bud and they really get going on their own. So that's really the first thing. Now, looking at how we're going to prune a tree, they all behave a little bit different. All the different varieties grow slightly differently, and they need different kind of pruning requirements. So we're into tree architecture. That's literally how you're thinking about a tree. You're shaping the tree. You're shaping its overall form. So we're going to want several branches that are heading off in different directions. They're not too crowded in there. You want to make sure you got a lot of sun coming in. So in this case, it's filled in. A lot of these branches up higher, they're starting to crowd each other. So we're going to thin some of them out. We're going to open things up and allow more sunlight and allow better future growth. So we'll be doing some of that. Then also we're going to take off any dead or dying branches. So here's one right here that's died. So we're going to take that off right away here, clean that up. And then there's also a little side branch coming off that will probably have some apple blossoms on it. But I'm going to take this branch off right there just to clean off any dead wood. If it's a good healthy tree, you normally don't have a lot of dead wood. So that's how I'm going to be thinking, going all the way around the tree and cleaning up dead wood, opening it up, making it less crowded. Because the fruit that does form, I want it to form well, and I don't want things to be too crowded. So this sprout here is coming out of the rootstock. It's not what we want. It's not the same as the parent tree here, this apple variety. So we're going to just take this off down low and just snap that off. Clean those up as well. So not only am I up high, but I'm also looking down at the base of the tree and making sure it's healthy down there as well. Shawna, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
Wow, I am really impressed every year. This is expanding more and more.
I have nothing else to do with my life. So here I have 10 apple trees. And so I will have 10 apple trees. Once they're full grown, they'll be up to the top of this bamboo post. I will get between 10 and 30 pounds of apples off each tree. This is an 18-foot length. The trees are planted roughly 2 feet apart, and they'll grow nice and tight to this frame that I put up. This is the espalier posts that have been banged into the ground. They're 8-foot tall T-posts, so they're a regular fence post. 2 feet into the ground, and then we have guy wires to help them keep them from buckling in on each other. And then this is clothesline. It's just regular old clothesline, a lot of it. And the turnbuckles are used to tighten it. Now this top one is a little loose, so I'll have to rejig this. I put together the frame and the wires, and then I used zap straps to attach the bamboo to. So what's happening here is you have the trees, and there's a couple here that are really good for, I'll show you the graft points. This is about 1.5 inches above the soil. This is the graft point here. So this is a branch. This is the whip. This was a branch off a big a mature tree. So they grafted it on, and you can take one of these trees and plunk it in the ground and have a tree, or you can do this with it. Basically, you're creating a giant branch. The tree is just one branch. So you can see these long stems here. You want to have nothing that's more than 4 inches long. So that one's a little bit long, and you cut back each of these little stems to 3 or 4 inches, and you want to have 3 or 4 buds on each one. And so what that does, when you cut it back, in between each of these stems that have already grown out of buds, there are little notches here, and each of these notches is a dormant bud. This one is just starting up. So these dormant buds, when you start cutting these back, the tree goes into a bit of a panic, like a little kamikaze thing, and says, oh my gosh, I've been cut back, I need to grow more. So it will grow more stems, and each of these stems will have a spur on it, or at least one spur, and the spur is where the flowers grow. And then, so you get each one of these producing 1, 2, or 3 spurs, and each one of these will have 2, 3, or 4 apples on it. So that's how you get this to be just one giant stem or branch of a tree. So here's where they clipped it off at the nursery, clipped the leader off. And I'm going to show you just on this one that's right here. You can see 1 bud, 2 bud, 3 buds, and I'm going to clip it at the 4th one. And how you want to clip it is right in front of the bud, and you want it to be on an angle. That's not very clean. So that the water sheds off of it. There we go. And so I'll just keep doing that all the way down the line. So I have a fair amount of pruning to do on these before too long, because I don't want them to all bud out. This one's starting to bud out a bit. So that's all the technical part and the practical part. Little space, lots of food, great production potential. But the artistic part of it is that I have 10 apples here that range from a very early to a very late one. So I've planted them from very early to very late, which means that I will have probably 8 to 10 weeks of blossom time. So this one will come on first, and then the last one, will be blossoming as this one is fading. Okay, so that's the espalier down here, and I'm going to show you some other stuff up at the top with the new trees. So here we are in the next section of trees. These ones haven't been worked on yet, but this, I wanted to show you, this is a really cool tree. This is called a fruit cocktail. So this tree, is a 4-in-1 combo. So it's on its own or separate rootstock, which is a quince. This is all stone fruit. The stem is the apricot, and then there's a Japanese plum that's been grafted here. This is another apricot that's been grafted here, and then this is a peach that's been grafted here. I think I got that all right. And a nectarine. So they're kind of tricky to grow, but I'm going to give it a shot. Basically prune them so you keep a fairly open middle in here, so there's lots of air movement in the tree. So I'm excited about this one. This is the only tree that's going to be a tree. Everything else is going to be espaliered.
Exciting day today. We're going to go into the transition garden beehive. Before we do, I want to go through very quickly some of the equipment, some of the paraphernalia that's used by beekeepers. What we've got here, well, first I'm dressed for the season, dressed for the occasion, so to speak. I've got a beekeeper's jacket, which of course has the netted hood to it, and I'll be putting this on a little bit later. Obviously to keep the bees away. So the most important piece of equipment is we've got this bee smoker, which is used to smoke the beehive. Smoke calms down the bees. That way they're not as aggressive and just more able to go into the hive with less kind of an alarm function.
Keep her going.
And she does not like to go into the beehive, I can guarantee you that much. But of course, like most cats, they have to be in the middle of where all the action is. So we'll light up the beehive smoker. You'll see how that works. We'll smoke the hive when we start to go in. The other thing we have here is a nice pair of grips for grabbing the frame. the honeycomb frames for pulling them out of the beehive. Two more essential tools here is a hive tool. It's basically just like a putty knife, crowbar combination, but it's important in a beehive because everything tends to get glued together. Bees use what's called propolis and beeswax as well to kind of tighten up the hive, prevent any water leakage, that sort of thing. So a lot of things tend to get glued together, which is why a tool like this is really quite helpful. And then just a brush, a nice light brush, and sometimes you need to literally sweep bees away from something when you're putting things together and that sort of thing. These are the basic tools. A good pair of gloves, also very helpful. These are beekeeper gloves, nice fine leather, but it's enough leather that a bee can't get through there with a stinger. And then nice long tail to the glove so that it can go up your sleeves a ways and they can't find their way underneath your gloves. So all in all, it's a good setup, and I think we're ready to go to get into the beehive. So come, have a look.
Okay, I don't have a bee suit, I just have a bee hat. I'm very happy with this. And I have the gloves, which I really like because this is a place of entry for bees. The thing about bees is they're not really aggressive. This particular hive and a lot of beehives are quite docile. And the only reason that they sting you is if they get pinned between a piece of clothing and your skin. Smoking dragon.
Okay, we gave them some smoke, and we're going to slowly start opening it up. We're taking the lid off. This is a waterproof lid, keeps the rain out. Inside there is an inner lid. And once we take this off, we'll be inside of the first box. This top box here is called a honey super, and it's primarily for the bees just to lay down honey in there. And there's going to be a plate that you'll see a little bit later, which is called a queen excluder. To keep the queen, she's down in the two boxes here, which are called brood boxes. We're keeping her out of this upper box, which is a honey super.
You want to take the honey super?
Yeah. You want to smoke it a bit?
Yep.
So now we're into the first brood box, and Susan's going to take out the first frame, and we're going to go in and start to look around and see what's going on. How much of it's honey, how much of it is brood, how much of it's freshly laid eggs. And we start to get a sense of the pattern of what's going on in the hive. Where the queen's activity is, where the workers are putting down honey. They're also storing pollen. We'll probably see some honeycomb with pollen in it. Here, you want to use this?
No, I like this. So it looks to me like they're storing nectar here. Can you see the liquid inside the comb? That's nectar.
Yeah, very shiny honeycomb here. The sunlight catching on liquid inside the honeycomb. That's honey being made.
We haven't seen our queen for a while. I don't think she's here.
We know she's been busy. You can see signs of the queen, of course, by the egg laying
the capped brood as it's forming into mature bees.
We're just going to look inside the brood box. We're looking for some freshly laid eggs, and we're going to go frame by frame. So we took out one frame, and now we're taking out another one. I'm not seeing any brood, are you?
Not here. That looks like a lot of drone there.
I don't know if it's drone or... I don't think it's drone. What happened was we went in the hive and we were always looking to see what the queen has been up to. And the queen was laying eggs. We could see the eggs in the cells. And we could see that there was capped brood, which means larvae that are in development. And we saw lots of bees and lots of activity and good things. All things coming in and looking like we weren't seeing any queen cells, which is a good sign that they're not preparing to swarm. The reason they swarm is because they are really doing well. Now they're doing well, but the key thing is they have enough room. And it's clear that they have enough room. We were very happy about what we saw. We didn't find the queen. Many hives have a marked queen, a little dot on the back of the queen. Our queen is naked. She doesn't have any marking on her, so it wasn't really the purpose of going in. It's nice if you see her, but it's not the only reason to go into a hive, because it's 2 boxes, so it would take us a long time to hunt her down. So everything went really well.